Well, it's all set now.
Oh, we're going disco again? Okay, I can live with that. Greetings, sports fans, and all other manner of fandoms, because, where it all comes together. This is Chris, your favorite host, and if I'm not your favorite host, fake it. Just lie to me. I don't care.
That would be me then.
That's it. And this is your weekly dose of monkey business, where we talk about all things geekish and Flower City Comic-Con-ish. And as with me, as always, in the studios, Billy DeTore.
Hi.
Tanya Metris, Tony
Hello.
Bacchetta, Ray is here, Ray King, Dolly Marie,
Hello.
Zach Upsitnik,
Hiya.
Bob Schwartz.
Hi.
And the ever-present and vivacious Terry Sinopley from the Arlene's Costumes is hanging out with us one more week. Hello. You can't hear her from there because she's like at the other end of the room, but she's saying hello anyway. So, what are we talking about this week? Do we know?
Raising geeky kids.
Raising geeky kids. Now, some of you cannot actually come in on this because you don't have kids yet.
No,
Like,
but they can be the geeky kid.
you can. But you were raised a geeky kid. Am I correct, Dolly? Or you just kind of like find it on your own?
I found it on my own.
You found it on your own?
Yeah. I didn't fit in.
That was really my question. Are geeks made or are geeks born?
I think it's both, Sherry. I really do. I think it's both because I know for a fact that both my kids, my daughter and my son are both really they love to be claiming themselves as nerds and geeks because they love the fantastic and they love gaming and they love comic books and all that stuff. They get into sci-fi and they both identify as it, and that's because that was my influence. I have taught them this. I have exposed them to it. But then, my dad was a jock and my mom was a school teacher, so I kind of came to it on my own. So it's in my own family, got that both ends of the spectrum there.
Guess I have a question.
Go ahead
For the parents.
Ask your
Because I
question.
don't have a child yet that I know of.
That you know of.
Yes.
You can borrow one of mine.
I'm okay. I'm
Okay. I was gonna say,
Why, in this day and age,
Yes.
of the lack of sideshows, would you want to raise your children to bite the heads off of live chickens? Thank you. Really got it.
Thank you.
That was the origin of the word geek.
Yeah,
he was the
geek was
sideshow
the
performer
sideshow
that
guy
would
that-
bite the heads off of live chickens and snakes.
really?
Seriously?
Yes, seriously.
Yes.
That is a legit thing.
That's amazing. I
In
wish
the
that
days
had-
of Coney Island.
I wish that factoid had come up when we were talking about the difference between geeks and nerds, because then I would have claimed to be a nerd instead of a geek.
Yes.
So you want to be
This
an
is why
edible
he was
candy.
Okay.
Wasn't that like 2 seasons ago?
I think it was like that was
Yeah.
that was a while ago. We had that discussion like
Yeah.
a year ago, I think.
yeah, no.
So
I
let's talk about it. I mean, Billy, were you raised this way, or did you kind of come to it on your own?
I came into it on my own. My parents weren't nerds, geeks, whatever at all. I mean, and my brother is the one that bought me my first couple comic books, and he had read them, but he wasn't in a comic book culture.
He never got
this
into it like you did.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just something. Once I wound up with my first Justice League comic book, that's it. I'm in.
That's it.
Once Star Trek reruns started showing up on Channel 10, that's me. I'm watching it every week. I'm sci-fi kid. I'm comic book kid, and my parents didn't discourage it. They didn't, but that wasn't them,
Right.
and it wasn't. Like I said, it wasn't my older brothers either. Even though they had, they knew who Superman and Batman and Spider-Man were, and maybe had read a comic book or two in their lives. But no, I just that was me once I saw them. Saturday morning cartoons and comic books and Star Trek were what I loved.
See, my daughter Juliana does not know this, but the very first, and I've told her this, she doesn't remember it, obviously, but the very first movie that she and I ever watched together was The Princess Bride. Okay, she was maybe 2 weeks old. All right, she spent the first week in NICU. And then we brought her home, and we were getting to the rhythm of having this child in the house that neither, was a first baby, and so it was this whole thing going on. My wife Erica and I, and Erica had gone to bed, and I'm sitting there, and the baby's up, and I'm feeding the baby, and I'm looking for something to do, and I'm surfing the channels, and sure enough, there's The Princess Bride, and it was just at the beginning. I clicked it on just as Fred Savage is getting his cheek pinched by his grandfather, Peter Falk's character. And I'm like, okay. And I started lecturing my 2-week-old daughter about the virtues of The Princess Bride. and I don't think she's really watched that movie that much, but she'll catch it with me once in a while, and she'll be like, I'm oddly fascinated by this movie. And I'm like, I've got a story for you. Now, my son, on the other hand, was 2 years old when Doctor Who was restored to television, when 2005, Christopher Eccleston's episode Rose. And sure enough, I had gotten my hands on a recording of it, and I'm watching it with my 2-year-old son on my lap. So you can see there was an influence there. I was going to raise my children to appreciate the same stuff I did. You
I'm
know?
going to go see The Princess Bride when it plays in theaters.
Oh
this
my
month.
God!
Yeah,
Yes.
October
I'm gonna storm
15th.
the-
Two
15th
weeks from
and 18th.
today.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
it's a
15th and 18th.
recording day.
Have fun
but-
storming the theater.
But it is. I'm
hear
trying to
post party?
figure out what times it is.
Probably 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it's in that area. So it's
Shall I
like
fandango it?
Sunday evening, whatever day it is.
I don't know. It's a game day.
It's a game day.
Who cares? We can game
It's
another
the
day.
Princess Bride.
There you go.
Come
It's
on.
in the
It's gonna be at
theater.
night, so.
Yeah,
All
but it
right.
still costs
Actually,
money.
2 shows, 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
Okay.
I mean,
All
come
right.
on.
Well, who knows? Maybe we'll figure that out on the fly. All right. So now was I raised geek? No, but my parents kind of humored me. They were really good at humoring
They
me.
still do.
They still do to this day. Both of them, after 47 years, they humor me a lot. But my mom did. She did knit me a Tom Baker scarf.
She did.
2 of them actually. One of them is in my Foot Locker, and the other one is. As soon as
You'll
the
bring
snow
it out,
flies,
yeah.
I will break that sucker out and wear it around town.
And my parents always did encourage reading, no
Yeah.
matter what. That was a big deal. That when we were old enough to go get a library card, went and got the library card, and obviously I was sort of drawn to science fiction and that type of things. But reading, I think, it's almost the linchpin to good nerd.
Reading is
Nerd-
fundamental.
yeah.
Seriously, if you're not a reader, then you got to wonder if you're missing some pieces to the puzzle, because there's so much out there to come to. So, Terry, your geek credentials are fairly strong. Now, your dad never struck me as a bit of as the nerd type, and your mom, but your mom's a costume.
My mom
Shop.
works in the costume shop too.
You know, so there's an exposure
I
there.
grew up in the costume shop, but I think my coming into my own in my geekdom and my nerddom was when I went off to school at Brockport for my freshman year and started gaming.
Yeah,
I played one of the original.
one of the original online
Games.
multi-user dungeons, MUDs.
Correct.
And,
Oh,
did.
Muds?
Yeah,
I
Muds
did.
and
Oh,
Mushes.
my God.
I did too.
Played it many, many years ago, and I actually still log on every once in a while.
The
And,
fact that it's still alive after all this time is
it
amazing.
That's
It
crazy.
is.
I've heard about it. Like,
It's a legend.
yeah.
Oh, yes,
It's a legend and a myth, but yes. Now, what was the name of that one?
Medivia.
Medivia, right. I never got into that one, but I'd found it was by my senior year of college at Brockport, which was your sophomore, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah. That I had found a Star Trek mush, multi-user shared hallucination was what mush called, and that's where I really met a lot of the people that I still am in touch with.
didn't know if
But
you
that
guys
was my
wanted-
that was
What did you say, Sherry?
What's up?
what's that, Cher?
Oh, nothing. Sorry.
Oh.
Oh, we thought you were
We're
jumping
coming.
in on this.
You're getting your turn in a moment. Where was I?
Mush.
Mush. I feel like I should be whipping a sled dog now at this point. But yeah, I mean those are some early credentials there, and you've been at it for a little while. And
I have,
we've had our
and I've,
fascination with the Ren Fair and things like that.
oh yes, many years of plus theater, and I think all of that plays a big role in that nerddom life. That once you start getting into the different fandoms that you're
Right.
really into, it's how much are you going to get into it?
Yeah.
Do you act the part, or do you just kind of watch and play along and read it? And
If you've played D&D at all and you've gone to Renaissance festivals in any way, shape, or form, then you've gone all in at that point. There's really you're all in. Sherry, how about you? Were you raised that way? I mean, Monk's exposure is kind of a given because of you and Chris, but how about you? How'd you come to it?
Well, it's weird because my mother, until probably a couple of weeks ago, would have told you I'm not geeky at all.
Uh-oh.
She's always insisted she wasn't. Yet
What changed?
she has been a Star Trek fan since the first one. She watched Buffy before anybody I knew did.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the only person that I know personally that's read the Silmarillion.
Oh, wow.
So,
Zach has too also. He was just pointing to himself with that gloating smile on his face going, yeah, I have to.
I read 23 pages of it.
I read the first page, and that was it. That was as far
I
as
read the
went.
cover,
Power through.
the title.
Gently the leaf falls.
Yeah, and her favorite author is Heinlein.
Okay. So, yeah, your
that's
mom's a
pretty
nerd.
Strong. Yeah, it's pretty strong geek cred, I think.
Yeah.
And my first fantasy novels came off my dad's shelf.
Uh-huh.
which were the Earthsea trilogy by Ursula K. Le Guin.
Okay.
And that's what got me to be a lifelong fantasy reader.
Mm-hmm.
But if you'd asked me, like in high school, I wouldn't have said that I was a geek. I didn't think I was a geek.
You were a metalhead, right?
Like I was a little metal chick. Believe it or not. But
I'm walking on air.
Okay.
We're going back to last week.
At least we're not walking on a cloud.
You might be walking on the sun. Anyway, tangents are happening. Tangents are happening.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
That's interesting. Thinking about when I was in high school, junior high and high school.
Right.
I'm trying to think if I knew I was a nerd or if it was just those were the friends I hung out with. We went to the Star Trek conventions at the Holiday Inn downtown, and we went to the science fiction movies, and that's just what we were. Were we labeled, or
probably
did we know it?
I think I think there's a certain level of you kind of get it at one point when you're more excited about the next Star Wars movie and making sure you can catch all of the episodes of Star Trek, the original series and syndication, and then you got to get that. Yeah. And then the guy next to you is wearing, a Motley Crue T-shirt, and he's got the long hair and the cigarette in his fingers, and you're all like 6, 7, 8 years old tops. Then you got to wonder if there's a certain kind of
I still remember
outlook on the world.
In grade school trading comic books with my friends. I'd have my stack that I'd already read. They had different comic books, so we'd trade what. Okay, I want to read this one. Okay, I want to read yours.
Right.
And we just wind up with a different stack of comics. And did we know that we were different than other people, or is it just, okay, we're hanging out together because we like the same stuff?
As Judah, our art director, Judah Nevedonsky, told me during the 17 show, he goes, Chris, this is your new normal. This is the way it is.
See, I grew up in a completely different environment.
Talk to me.
Where nobody I knew read comic books. Nobody I knew was into all the things that I was into. I grew up more in an urban environment.
Okay.
And
how'd you find it?
Just being smart. I was scared. I was scared for my friends to know I was smart. Legit.
Really?
I was terrified for my friends to find out that I had straight A's. Because I didn't want to get picked on or bullied.
That's wild.
So, in the urban, neighborhoods I grew up in, if I got an A on my test, I would flip it over. I didn't want my friends to know. I didn't want to get picked on. I didn't want my cousins to pick on me.
I always went to the inner city schools too. I grew up in the 19th Ward here in Rochester, but I wound up in that special class, but like the higher or
the AP stuff.
The AP, yeah, the ones where it was acceptable to get good grades on your.
They were going to actually put me in about 5th grade. They were going to put me in the advanced placement classes too. But I refused because I didn't want my cousins to make fun of me or treat me different. So, just the culture I was in, I didn't fit in. I was always very quiet and shy because of it. But, I always knew I was kind of geeky, a little bit different, but I didn't know anybody else like me. So, for me to come into my geekiness or nerdiness, it took a while for me to kind of accept it.
Okay.
I was always that movie nerd, though, because I always will be and always have been that movie nerd. I love every movie, know every quotes, and
You're the one
we don't know anybody like that, do we?
Song lyrics and movie quotes.
When
I was in 3rd grade, I had the reading test had my reading level over senior in high school, so they put me literally by myself. I would sit at my desk doing my own work during class. It makes you really popular.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah, so I don't have that fond memory of having friends and trading comic books together. And then on top of that, being Hispanic, and my mom hates it when I say it, but it's the truth. I was told comic books aren't for girls; they're for boys. That's a boy thing. You can't have comic books. That's for boys. I got a
You've heard
lot
stuff
of
like that
growing up.
My
I've
mom
heard that a lot.
Though. That's the thing. My mom collected.
How about you, Tony? Did you hear that comic books were only for boys?
No. My dad would get comic books for my sister. My sister would just say no. My mom grew up as a huge gearhead, and my dad was also a gearhead, and that's kind of how they clicked. So that kind of. I'm not a gearhead, but my dad was really into Star Wars, and so were my brothers, and that's how I got into nerdom. Then just kind of branched out from there. Now I make chainmail.
Now you make chainmail. We're going to be talking because I need some armor. Yo, Ray, you had a point? Find a microphone. Ray's coming up to bat. He's not sure which one he did.
Red at Tony's.
He's not sure which one.
I was like, it's kind of a mix for me because my mom.
Your mom can be a bit geeky at times.
I thought you were gonna say something totally different. I was gonna agree with that point, but yes,
She's coming for you.
Your mom's different. We'll leave it at that.
My dad being a grease head,
Right.
a giant grease monkey, huge.
Yeah.
I did pick up on a lot of the stuff that he taught me because as his only son, he wanted me to learn that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As a 5-year-old kid, I wasn't really too interested. But now, my mom, Star Wars for my mom, and sometimes she, don't mean to piss everybody
His
off.
mom and I work together at City Hall, and so we're back to back with each other at our desks.
Don't mean to piss everyone off.
So all I do is turn around, and there's all the Star Wars puzzles, the mugs, the figures. She's got a couple Funko Pop toys on there.
She's a geek.
Oh, she is. She's hardcore. I love Angie
Didn't she
for it.
try to steal Groot one day?
She did try to steal my Groot. No, what she ended up doing
I
was
have
just
a Groot
taking a
now.
picture of him.
Just taking a picture.
She took pictures of him and sent them to me when I was out sick one day.
So, and
Victory
not to
27.
for everybody to kick my ass, but I didn't like Star Wars growing up, and to this day I kind of still don't. But
It's fine. It's not for everybody. Only the cool people.
I know
Only the true
all about
geeks.
it. I know about it. I know the characters who I need to know. So if
Right.
because my mom took me, but at the same time, I had my uncle. My uncle was the comic book guy. He would take me to the comic book shop, and he showed me, all those characters that you watch on TV. They started here.
Yeah.
So he showed me that, and then I kind of came to my own world when it came time for anime and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say it was a mix, because I had the instillment through my parents and my uncle, but then I discovered a whole bunch, a world by myself. I didn't want to say it because I knew it was coming. So. I don't know. You can be raised as it, I guess, or you can
Kind of come to it on your own.
Sometimes you can just do both.
Just who I am.
It's
just who I
you
am.
make it your own. That's the thing. It's not so much how you come to it, but that you make it your own. And when you want to be here, you go all
I mean,
in.
come on. I'm 23 years old and I still watch Power Rangers.
Wow.
My
Nobody's
children
perfect.
have developed their own sense of what their nerddom
Mhm.
is. They
With Pokemon and stuff like that.
with Pokemon, with Minecraft, with graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my daughter's reading list for this past summer had graphic novels on it.
That's fantastic, by the way.
Yes,
I
it
love
was
that.
fabulous, and she's come into her own at 10.
May I
She
ask
knows
which
exactly-
graphic novels?
Oh, Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, everything a good 10-year-old needs.
That's right.
So pretty
That's
much she was being taught by Mr. Turner from Boy Meets World.
The Killing Joke,
Good.
No, what would she have on her list?
Well, basically, she just had to choose a graphic novel.
Okay.
They wanted to give them some exposure. She was
Gotcha.
going into she's in 5th grade now,
Mm-hmm.
so they wanted to give them exposure across several different genres and allow
platforms.
them to, kind of choose for themselves what they really enjoyed doing. And not only did they have to read it, but then they had to do some kind of a project around it, and not just a book report, but they could have done a little skit, or they could have rewritten the ending, or a number of different things. So, while she was already into it herself, her teachers have kind of helped to develop that as well.
That's cool. That's cool when you get that kind of support.
But she is a gamer girl at heart.
There you go.
I
Well,
like
it's just
what-
like mommy.
I like
Yes.
what Chris said in the beginning, because my dad, like I said,
Lean right in on that.
like I said, my dad is a geek, but he's a geek as he's a car guy.
Right.
That's his fandom. That's
Yeah.
his geekiness.
Fantasy football is D&D for jocks.
Yeah,
That's basically
absolutely.
it.
That works.
That's the long and the short of it. Tanya,
Yes.
were you a nerd before Randy?
I would say that growing up, yes, I'd liked the Star Trek and the Star Wars, and of course, for 3rd grade, I was Princess Leia because I actually had hair long enough that my mom was able to
Danishes.
do the Danishes with my hair at that point. And like, I just remember going out to lunch with my parents one day, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to go to the movies." I'm like, "Are we going to go see Return of the Jedi?" And sure enough, we were. So, and I've always been an avid reader growing up, but until probably my sophomore year in college, I didn't even know what Dungeons and Dragons really was. I had no clue that was out there. But as I said, I was always an avid reader, and I liked the stories. I liked the fantasy. I was part of the theater in high school and things like that. So I'm like, "What is that? What's that book?" And he's like, "Oh, it's basically blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "Oh, I'd like to try it." And sure enough, it was basic. It was the rules cyclopedia. I created my first fighters to jump right in, and that was in 92. And now 25 years later, I'm still playing, and
the addiction is strong with this one.
I get a little upset when game nights get canceled. So
don't do that. Just don't do that.
No, seriously, they're sacred. They really are.
So
I got an anecdote for that. Go ahead.
But I don't know. Home's calling.
Home's calling. Hello, home.
Yeah, home can wait.
I do.
So, yeah, I think I want to say part of the culture I found it on my own and then got introduced by the people I was around at that point. Because, yeah, I was not the super studious person in school because, like, I was called a brain or whatever in seventh.
You were a cheerleader.
In seventh grade, then, because I got all my spelling words right or whatever, and then I'm like, oh, I can't do this. It's kind of like what Dolly said. You can't let anybody know that you're smart or whatever because you got picked on. And truly, back in the 80s and early 90s, yeah, I got picked on. But, yes. But I was a cheerleader, but I wasn't part of that jock crowd. I was in the fish out of water type thing because I didn't know really where I belonged. So now I'm glad that I found my tribe. I'm glad I found Billy because he's part of my tribe. So yeah,
Go ahead. Do you have? Okay,
I'll say after.
When I was 12, a long freaking time ago. My dad's cousin gave me my first red box for Christmas. That the D&D beginner set. And I remember it was Christmas time, so it was cold, it was winter, and it was snowing outside, and my parents had a fire in the fireplace, so I'm sitting in the big chair by the fireplace. Remember that one? And yes. I'm sitting there, and I'm reading this beginner's D&D book. I'd never seen anything like it. I'm looking at the dice going, oh, this is wild, this is cool. She goes, well, it's a game, you'll like it. I'm like, okay. And one of the first things I read was a script where the DM was describing a tap room to the adventurers. You're sitting in a comfortable chair by the fire, was the first line. And I just remember stopping after reading and I'm looking at the fireplace, looking at the chair, looking at the book, going, it knows. It knows. And I think that was pretty much, that was the beginning of the end. I don't think I was ever going to be normal after that. But anyway, Terry, you had a great angle that you wanted to bring up about this too as well. So go right ahead.
Well, my son is 7, and he is mildly autistic. What some would see as Asperger's. Well, many teachers and parents have introduced Aspie kids to computers and tablets and things like that because it helps with calming. Mm-hmm. Well, in the process of that, he's found his own gaming. He follows in his sister's footsteps and plays Minecraft and plays various other games, but he really gets into it, and he is, building cities in Minecraft that, shame much older players.
Yeah.
Because he's really, really gotten into it, and he can really just focus on that, and it gives him a way to focus, and it gives him a way to express himself in a way that he might not be able to do normally. So that nerddom has kind of come full circle and actually helped to be therapeutic.
That's phenomenal. That is a great angle. Sherry, are you still with us, Sherry?
Yes.
Hello, Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
How? Now, first of all, let me ask, would being basically a Renaissance Festival aficionado, that's a nerddom in itself, isn't it?
I believe so.
Okay, and how did you come to that? I think I've asked you that question in the past, but I don't really remember. I don't think we've recorded that conversation.
Well, I kind of came about it in a roundabout way. I'd only been to the fair once before I started working there, and it was actually like the summer, like 2 summers before I had visited, thought it was neat. But my senior year of high school, I started dating a guy who actually was the one who introduced me to D&D.
Okay.
And the reason I didn't know that was a geeky thing to do was because everybody I played with were the popular kids.
Oh, nice.
At their high school, they went to Clinton High School. I did not, but they were the smart and artsy and theater kids, and Clinton was very much an art school.
Okay.
It was very artsy, so those were the popular kids. And they played D&D, so I thought it was cool.
That's an interesting way of being exposed to it.
Because all of these really cool people played.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he had met the woman that I first worked for. I think you might remember her, Dea, at the numerology booth.
Right. Okay.
And she had been looking for a couple of people to work, and she recruited us. And I worked for her for a number of years. I actually worked for her right up until I had Lana.
Mm-hmm.
I had Alana. And then after a couple of years, I went back, but in a different capacity. And I worked there for many years. And Lana grew up as a fair baby for many years.
I remember.
Definitely.
Uh-huh. And, it's funny talking about are geek kids made or are they born? Lana, I don't think, even if Chris and I weren't geeks and hadn't exposed her to certain things, she would have been one anyways because she has things that she follows that neither one of us do.
Mm-hmm.
That neither one of us, like Terry was saying with her kids,
Yeah.
like she's very into anime.
Okay.
I don't watch anime. She's very into especially the DC universe, but she doesn't do it through comics. She's always been through the animated series.
Gotcha.
Because she watches several of them. And that's where her, and I mean, yes, she has things that she got from us. She got the Star Wars from Chris and Supernatural from me and fantasy novels from me and that kind of stuff. But she has her own little geekdoms. Oh, sidebar note, Tanya.
Yes.
I know your younger son's name.
Yes. Is Riker.
And I know you've said, well, it's actually, it's for, was it your father-in-law?
Yes, my father-in-law's name was Ronald Richard, and Riker is a derivative of Richard.
Uh-huh.
But we all know where it came from.
But yeah, it's definitely because we were Star Trek fans, so it was something that stuck. And he was a little Commander Riker for his first Halloween, whether he remembers it or not. And he is growing up a geeky kid.
If that really was.
I think in a way it is. I mean, to get his name, we wanted the initials RRM because that's what my husband's initials are, and that's what his dad's initials were. And we originally were going to go Raphael, so he was going to be a Ninja Turtle. But but if we ever wanted Christmas presents and birthday presents for the kid from my mother, we got vetoed. So we went Riker Raphael instead. So she was okay with that. So we've got a Rye and a tie. So, and then they all get mixed up anyway.
So Riker's ultimate Halloween costume would basically be a Ninja Turtle in a Starfleet uniform with a beard.
Yes.
Okay.
This will happen.
But yes,
I'm
I mean,
gonna make that happen
I
now.
think he's definitely growing up a geeky kid.
And
I can arrange
it's nice
that.
to see that.
We have that.
I think right now he wants to be
connection.
Leloid from Ninjago,
Okay.
whatever, because he wants to be Leloid.
I can arrange that too.
I don't
Terry
know.
can get behind that. She can help you out with that one.
He doesn't know from one day to the next what he's going to be for Halloween. But
Please
he
take them off my hands. No.
please.
Please.
I feel like it's.
Well, the reason I asked was because though I don't think any of you guys know it, Lana's name is actually a geeky reference.
Okay, explain it.
But it's so obscurely geeky that nobody gets it.
That's fine.
Well, tell
One
us.
of our favorite fantasy writers, he wrote several epic fantasy. He's one of the lesser-known ones, but really good, named David Eddings.
Okay.
Alana
Is that
is
the guy
a
who's behind the
character
Belgariad?
from one of his books.
Sparhawk.
Yes,
Sparrowhawk?
Queen Alana.
Oh.
That's where we got her name.
Look at that.
Google is a wonderful thing.
I know. I actually.
I'm sorry. I'm just Googling it because you know where I sit when we're podcasting.
She's got command of the computer.
But
Scroll down a
if
little
there's
bit.
anyone there that
It's a nice
likes
jacket.
epic fantasy, he is a great one. He's a great author.
Now, David Eddings, did he write the Belgariad and like Polgara and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
He wrote those, but this is from his other series which
The
was
Millennium.
I'm trying to remember. There was 2 trilogies.
The Millennium.
Yes, the Millennium and the Tamuli. Yes.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
I
I
like-
think I've got some D&D character names coming up here now.
Oh, and they're great characters. They're absolutely fantastic characters and very multicultural, and it's fun. They're fun books. Both sets of series. So,
Yeah, I'm
that's all I
definitely
wanted to
looking
say,
now.
is that she's obscurely
What are you looking
named.
at?
Mirtai is the
It's like CGI porn over there.
Aten bodyguard of Queen Alana during the later events of the Sapphire Rose. So
Sephironia. Say these 5 times fast. Wowzers.
Sephironia.
Yes.
She's a priestess of Arafel.
Go for it.
Ray is grabbing a microphone. All hands to battle stations.
You know, before I got into comics and stuff, I got into card games, and I got into
like Magic and stuff, or
3-card Monte.
or 3-card Monte.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I was that guy.
Not gin or blackjack.
No.
I know how to play blackjack.
Okay, good. I need some extra money.
I
Go
know
ahead.
how to play.
You have to be 21 to play.
I'm 23. Oh.
There's dead air.
The last horse finally crosses the finish line.
I missed it.
So when I was about 5, my mom picked me up from school early, and she's walking me up to my room, and I'm over here thinking I'm in trouble because A, you're picking me up early from school, and B, you're walking me to my room. What did I do? So she says, "I got a surprise
It
for you."
smelled that bad.
Probably. I was 5-year-old, so you never know. So she says, "I got a surprise for you." I'm like, What? So I walked into my room, and there were my first pack of cards for Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever. Like legit, the very first packs that I ever had, and because my mom bought them. And
outstanding.
It was
See?
it was literally the first sets.
You were being raised a nerdy kid.
And you know, looking at this, there's another reference to the name Riker. John Riker was a character primarily the enemy of the Hulk.
And there's also Riker, the prophet Yuval, who was my advisor, and Zach knew, too.
But then there's also Riker's Island, which I'm very afraid that he might end up on every so often. And then he'll say, it's my
It's
island.
my island.
My island.
Yeah, there's another word that I'll probably throw
I feel
in there.
like it's
I
much
fight for you
more,
to get to kill the English.
I feel like it's much more acceptable for kids to be raised geeky now than
It really
they,
feels
they
a
were
lot
like
more
10
mainstream,
years ago.
doesn't it? It really does feel a lot more mainstream,
Yeah.
lately, especially with the CW superhero shows.
CW,
Comic-Cons are becoming
yeah.
more
It's the
mainstream.
biggest movies in the world right now.
They are.
Yeah.
They're huge.
Now, are any of your kiddies' names geeky?
Let's see. Geraldine is after a stand-up comedian of the 70s.
Okay.
Flip Wilson had a character named Geraldine.
Oh
So
my God! Really?
just being named after
There's a reference.
a obscure TV reference.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Dora and Precious came with Susan, but Dora, I know Dora the Explorer. However, and now Oliver, the newest cat after Oliver and Company, the Disney movie.
Nice.
So
Does it count that I know what I want to name my kids when I have them?
Yeah. Well, I want to hear this.
Oh, boy.
I want to hear this.
I'm sorry, Angie.
So when I have a boy, I want to name him Grayson.
Okay.
okay,
Aw.
Dick Grayson, nice.
And then give him my dad.
Oh, that's right. You're a big Nightwing.
I'm a big, yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly Batman, but I love Nightwing. I love me some Nightwing. And if I have a girl, I want to name her Urza.
Urza.
Urza Jane.
Urza Jane.
After 2 of my favorite characters from Fairy Tale.
Okay.
So
Urza Jane.
I want to do
Jane.
Killian.
I'm gonna see.
Oh.
I want to see how
Is that
your
from Once
eventual
Upon a
wife
Time?
plays into this
Captain
and how
Hook.
the decision making process.
I do
Yeah.
as well.
I can look. She's gonna look you dead in the eye and go, "No."
I can
I'm
definitely
hoping
see
I
the
can-
Killian.
I'm hoping I can at least get the Grayson.
It's possible. You never know. You want Killian over there, Dolly?
Yes, I want my son to be named Killian.
Killian.
I can see it.
You know what? I've always been fairly kind of locked on for boys' names when it came down to it. Ian was always like top 2, top 3 for me. Colin was a name that I'd also had thought about for a boy's name. I'm not sure where that popped into my head, but it was either Colin, Ian, or I have no idea really. I was going to take input from.
See, I'm terrified I'm going to have twins.
Uh-huh.
And if I have twin boys, it's going to be Killian and Gideon.
Gideon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are
That's only
you a
because-
Criminal Minds fan?
I just like the name Gideon.
Oh.
I mean,
Because it's
And we
Jason
go to-
Gideon.
Jason Gideon.
I'm sorry. I'm criminal mindsing right now.
Dolly. That's
Nothing
only
wrong
because
with that, ever.
legend.
no, that's only because Spanish people are so good at popping out twins every 5 seconds.
Oh, don't scare her.
I'm named after a twin. My aunt Dolly and Delia. It's might happen.
So however you come to it, either by your choice, your
parents?
birth, your parents' influence, and then
Your
passing
friends?
it forward, your friends, and passing it forward. If you're listening to us, 99% chance you
are a
nerd or a geek.
This
That's a whole different podcast, the Nerd and Geek one.
This conversation got me sort of flashing back to my early geek days and remember reading the James Blish novelizations of the Star Trek TV shows.
Okay.
Do you remember those?
I have
I
them.
at
I
all?
have some.
I did read a couple of them. I actually read a lot of the Doctor Who novelizations.
Just
But same difference.
4 or 5 per book, correct? Episodes of the TV show as rewritten by James Blish. So I just happened to, I typed it into Amazon, and there's a 720-page collection of 45 of the episodes. So
Wowzers.
it's $20. I think I'm going to click
There
buy,
you go.
buy one now.
Click buy.
you
Click
buy-
purchase
are you
now.
shopping?
He's shopping.
He's shop. That's what I usually supposed to be doing. You're
So-
shopping?
Well, it made me think. I used to read those James Blish Star Trek books, so maybe I'll do that again. Haven't in a long time.
Man. Well, welcome
But
to
I've
October.
been reading more on my Kindle.
Welcome to Living Life La Vida Nerd. And may we pass it on. I can tell you this. I'm going to leave you with this thought right now. I've already planned this out because I was joking with Juliana about it. When I have my first grandchild, they will be given a rattle by me, their grandfather, and that rattle will have dice in it. So as soon as they figure out how to open it, they will be old enough to play. That's what I'm thinking. Is basically I'll make it a little puzzle thing, and if they can open it, I'll teach them how to roll them. So that's Growing Up Nerd, the next generation. So
The animated series.
the animated series.
Oh, that would be so cool. I'd watch it.
Now, it's a D20, right?
It's a D20.
Good.
It's gotta be. And then as soon as you figure out how to pop it open, there's gonna be a full set in there. And that's the rattling part.
You want me to start writing that script now? Or?
Yeah, get cracking. We got a cinematographer over here. We can
I
film
got
it
you.
soon. Okay. All right. So for everybody in the studio, I'm not going to go through the names because I keep tripping over them. And for Sherry on the phone, because we love you, Sherry. You're the awesomest producer ever.
Aww.
This has been Monkey Business for yet another week. We will see you next week. This has been a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic Con. Coming at you next year, June 9th and 10th of 2018. Like us on Facebook, love us on Facebook, and if you're interested in sponsoring us or maybe advertising with us, sponsors, plural, at fc3roc.com. We will love to hear from you.